And we were doing this test, and the guy was telling me like, oh my God, how many Grand Tours do you want to win? How many Grand Tours do you want to win? So I was like, oh, that's nice.
Welcome to the Canadian Cycling Magazine podcast. I'm Matthew Piaro, and here, as always, a permanent fixture of the pod is Matt Hansen.
Let's just stop with the jokes. This is a serious podcast. We're talking, we're interviewing, we're doing lots of important work here. No time for jokes.
Oh boy. Okay, this is serious, Matt Hansen, everybody. This is the Canadian Cycling Magazine podcast. We got a great chat with Olivia Baril. She is on UAE Team ADQ. She's had a pretty good season to date. She was 4th in the GC at the Itzulia Women's Tour most recently. She rode in the Vuelta. She did very well there in the overall classification. I think a crash in stage 7 in the final stage kind of derailed her GC hopes. She raced some one-day classics earlier in the year, and we're going to find out more about this rider who I'm feeling more confident in saying is probably Canada's best hope for a Grand Tour win.
I think so too. I mean, at least a podium soon, because I think, you see her mixing up with all the top riders now. It's not like she's hanging on. I mean, she's putting time into Van Vleuten and she's mixing it up. I hate when people say breakout year, because I don't think it's such a thing as a breakout year, but this has kind of become her breakout year and a half, right? Because she was great last year, but she's definitely kind of leveled up a little bit.
And to add some news that came to me after my interview with Olivia Baril is that she will be riding the Tour de France Femmes this summer. She told me not too long after our interview that her team let her know that she will be going to the Tour, and she will be the team's pick for GC. She'll be a protected rider at the biggest race of the year, which is pretty exciting stuff. But before we get into breakout year 1.5, which I like that. I like that terminology.
Thank you. I made it up myself. Spent all night writing that.
Oh, good. We're recording now in the middle of the Giro d'Italia. Today, as we're recording, Derek G is in the break, which is hilarious because, listeners, you won't know what day that is because he seems to be perennially in the break.
It could be the rest day because he likes to attack on the rest day against his teammates, as we've seen.
Yeah, that was a funny little bit that his Team Israel Premier Tech put out of him attacking the rest day ride.
I'd love to see him at dinner. I wonder if he runs ahead of everyone to get the first dibs on rice. Or I guess they don't eat rice. Well, maybe they would in the north, yeah.
Or the pasta. Just sprint to the front of the line.
Yeah. Where's the risotto? Get out of my way.
But it's been an exciting Giro. He has got a lot of attention, rightfully so. Now people like Canadian press are showing up on rest days to chat with him. It's great. He deserves the attention. And we're going to catch up with him a little later. Once the Giro's over, we'll have an in-depth chat with Derek G.
Can't wait.
You'll be listening.
How's your riding been lately there, Matthew Piaro?
Well, I had a good ride on the weekend. We were north of Toronto in cottage country at a friend's place. There are some fantastic gravel roads in the region. But of course, it's spring in the Canadian Shield. And, I'll get into that and what that means. The weather was nice. It was cool. I got out on my ride. I was about 3.5 kilometers in on this beautiful gravel road. Trees were in close, and I got a flat. The conditions for changing a flat were horrible. It was windless in the woods, and it's black fly season.
Oh, that's lovely.
It was crazy. Now, it's not the first time I've tangled with black flies or bugs or been out in the woods during, the springtime. But when you're changing a flat, as you know, you need both your hands for the job, and you don't have a spare one to swat away the swarms of black flies that are coming down on you. So I could just feel every bite as I'm, changing the tube out. And it's just an exercise in self-control to say like, okay, I'm being eaten alive, but I have to finish this job.
And the faster you get it done, the faster this is why you need a tail, the tail to kind of swat the flies whilst you change the tube.
If only I was a horse. Yes, that would have been easier. I mean, I wouldn't have the thumb and forefinger to change the tube.
A raccoon, maybe?
Maybe a raccoon. Anyway, it was glorious once the tire and the wheel were on and I could start riding again and get away from those devils.
And were you just covered in bites the next day?
You can't see my legs right now, but it looks like I'm riddled with red marks all over my legs. It's disgusting. And I wasn't itchy until 48 hours later.
Yeah, that's how Mother Nature works. She's cruel.
Anyway, it was a great test on the Argon 18 Krypton, which I've been riding and enjoying.
Did it get bitten?
Hard to say.
Okay. Sounds like a great ride.
It was a great ride after that. I got all the bad stuff out of the way early.
That's usually how it is too, right? You're riding along. Oh, beautiful day. Wow, I'm at one with nature. Everything's perfect. Nothing can be better than, all right, got a flat tire. No problem. I'll change it. Oh my God, there are hordes of flies. And then it's just cut to, But anyway.
Exactly. But anyway, enough of me and my riding. And let's get on to the interview with Olivia Baril. I love her frankness and her honesty, whether she talks about a crummy team she was on or the dynamics in the bunch. It's totally refreshing to hear the straight talk from a rider. It was really cool to just get these insights from inside the peloton. And with that, here's my interview with Olivia Baril. Olivia Baril, you recently wrapped up the Itzulia Women's race, a 3-day event in Basque Country. You finished 4th on the general classification. On the final stage, Marlene Reusse finished solo. You and Demi Vollering sprinted for 2nd. Tell me about that sprint.
That was a fun sprint because with 2 kilometers to go, I think it was almost a track stand between Demi Vollering, Annemiek van Vleuten, Niewiadoma, and I. And 2 FDG riders that we had 1 minute behind came back to us in the final 500 meters. And so then we were 7. But no, it was a funny sprint because I wanted to take Demi Vollering's wheel for sure. That was the wheel that I wanted to take. And then Kasia and Annemiek were on the other side of the road looking at Demi and I. And it was funny. I just really thought it was a funny situation. And my parents that don't know so much about cycling still because they haven't been cyclists themselves. But they said, oh, we don't understand why you guys were just like not moving at the end. So, yeah, we were just looking at each other. But, Demi Vollering was the strongest at the sprint because, obviously she didn't need to do any work in the final kilometers being the leader. So, she had the freshest legs and I finished 2nd, but third, 2nd of the bunch sprint, but 3rd of the stage. So it was okay.
It was okay. It was a pretty good race to watch. It was a pretty good sprint. Overall, how do you feel about your performance at the Itzulia Women's race?
Overall, I wanted to be on the GC podium. And my coach had asked me beforehand, he said, I know you really want a GC podium, but if you didn't get a GC podium, would you really be disappointed? And I said yeah, I would really, really be disappointed if I wasn't on the podium. And I did a big mistake on the first stage, losing time to Kasia, that I tried to make up on the following 2 stages with intermediate sprints. But, when it's only 3 days long, it's really hard to make up time, especially when for a lot of the intermediate sprints, there was a breakaway ahead. So we couldn't even contest the bonus seconds. So generally I'm happy because my form was good. I was strong. I was there when I needed to be there. But I did lose the GC podium because of a mistake that now I learned from and I will never do again. But so it's like a little bit of mixed feelings.
Before Itzulia, you raced the Vuelta Femenina. How would you compare your performance at that race with the one in Basque Country?
At the Vuelta, I feel like I cared a little bit less, if that makes sense, because Itzulia is in the Basque Country and I live in the Basque Country. And so it was my number one goal of the season, Itzulia. For me, super, super important. And so I wanted to perform really, really well. But in the Vuelta, like the feeling was like a little bit different because we were 3 GC leaders. So, there was less pressure on my shoulders. We were like protected all the time. We had a team of 7. And then in Itzulia, at the final stage, we were only 4, which makes a difference too. But like my performance was good because I was also a little bit nervous going into Itzulia that I would be tired from the Vuelta. But I carried the form pretty well. So I was happy about that. And I mean, it was more or less the same people with the same fight on the climbs. So more or less the same.
Can you describe your strengths as a rider?
I think that now I'm becoming more and more of a climber because I'm there when it's getting hard on the 20-minute long climbs, even the 5-minute steep climbs. And but I'm also like a good puncher rider because I can contest the intermediate sprints and do well. So that's a really good quality to have, especially in the women's peloton when the races are generally shorter in terms of like days of racing. So, these intermediate sprints become really important for us for general classification, like also in Valencia, where I moved up like almost 20 positions on GC because of intermediate sprints. So I'm really happy that I'm one of those climbers that can also sprint well. And I'm working now on time trialing because I want to represent Canada at the Olympics. And I think that the time trial is going to be like super important. They're going to want to bring someone that's good on the road, but also for time trial. And having it at the Tour de France this year, it's also really important. So I want to develop a little bit everywhere because now you really need to be like a solid all-rounder to be good on GC.
We've mostly been talking about stage races, but you ride one-day races too. In 2022, you were in the day's breakaway for roughly 120 kilometers at the Tour of Flanders. Also last year, you won the Grand Primo Ciudad de Eibar, a one-day race with a UCI ranking of 1.1. What's your feeling about one-day races?
I really like one-day races. And this year, being on a World Tour team, like we're a little bit more specialized in like the races that they're sending us to. So compared to Valcar last year, where I raced like just a lot of one-day races, Flanders Classics, Spain races, a one-day stage race, everything. Now I'm, more in the stage racing scene, and I did the Ardennes. And I had a support role for all 4 races that I did there in Belgium, the fourth one being Brabant. So I really like one-day races, but this year I haven't had a chance to be a leader. So, I think that I would have performed well, but if I don't get that chance within the team, it's hard to tell. But now they're giving me my chance in the stage races, which is also important. And at the end of the month, I'll be racing the same race in Eibar again, but this time with the development team. So that's going to be super fun for them to try to defend the victory from last year, and fun for me to share a little bit of experience because I know the course super well as well. So that's going to be nice.
This episode of the Canadian Cycling Magazine podcast is supported by MS Bike. The first MS Bike event of the season is a little more than 2 weeks away. Riders heading to Fraser Valley MS Bike, I hope you're stoked. If you're planning to attend the MS Bike Ottawa to Brockville event in mid-August, or the Hinton MS Bike in early September, you have lots of time to fundraise and boost your fitness. But don't delay. Right now, you can start a 12-week training plan from MS Bike. It was developed by coaches we work with here at Canadian Cycling Magazine. You'll find that training plan on the MS Bike website. You can also find MS Bike-specific training advice and tips on the Canadian Cycling Magazine website. Check the show notes for the link. If you haven't signed up already for MS Bike, you should right now. Did you know that 1 in 400 Canadians lives with MS? You can help. Give your riding some focus and some purpose. Head to msbike.ca. Register and start fundraising. I want to talk more about racing in Europe, but before that, I want to look back at your start in cycling. You're from Rouyn-Noranda in Quebec. It's about 600 kilometers northwest of Montreal. The town and the region has a strong cycling scene. This is where the Tour de l'Abitibi runs, and the Tour de la Relève is held in nearby Amos. That's also where Caroline Canuel is from. But, as I understand it, your first sport isn't cycling, is it?
No, my first sport was swimming. So I started swimming when I was about 11 or 12. And I swam throughout high school. I really liked it a lot. And one summer, I decided to do a little bit of a triathlon, as an off-season sport. And I performed well, not so bad. I did a few regional triathlons, nothing crazy. And the year after that, I volunteered at the Tour de l'Abitibi. And I thought it was really, really nice to see all these cycling races. I was really inspired by this race, actually, being a volunteer there with my friends. And it was really nice. And after that same summer, at the end of summer, the guy that owns the junior cycling team, that was IM Gold at the time, he called me in October and he said, hey, I saw that you did a little bit of triathlon. You were a volunteer at the Tour de l'Abitibi, so you saw what road cycling was all about. Would you like to join our cycling team next summer when I would be first year junior? And I said yes, right away, almost on the phone. I didn't even ask my parents or anything. I didn't consult with anyone. I just said oh yeah, okay, that sounds fun. And he said, well, talk it over with your parents and call me back in a week or something. And I said no, the answer is yes. So then I just, I started cycling as I went to the gym twice a week for spinning classes. That was my training before my first year junior. And I was doing all the trainings as a swimmer, but I had just added these two spinning classes, these 1 hour spinning classes. And I actually performed quite well. I was on the provincial team for nationals, and I didn't understand any of it. I didn't understand that, there was the world championships that I could qualify for. There was these bigger international races like Tour de la Relève, Rimouski. And I just had the two best summers ever in that team. It was really, really great. And I made a lot of friends and just great time. So then I always kept with cycling and slowly stopped swimming.
Now, what was it about cycling that you were so sure that you wanted to participate in it? Why did you not take a week to think about it and before joining that team?
Well, at that point, I had a lot of deception with swimming, because swimming is such a hard sport in the sense that if you make one small mistake during your swim, you're not going to meet the time. And these small details that you can't make a mistake, it really started to take a toll on me. And I found it really hard. And I saw that in cycling, the race is so long. You can crash at the beginning, you can have a puncture in the middle, you can miss the breakaway, come back, and you can still win the race. You can still win the race. So that's what I thought was the best about cycling, is that it's not over because of one mistake.
That's really interesting. It's cycling, you have time to correct things.
Yeah, you do. And it's very strategic, which I love about cycling. Super strategic. It's never the same winner. You're not, progressing by just like a little few parts of a second per year. You can progress a lot. You can change a lot. You can change how you ride. I really prefer cycling. There's more like possibility, I feel.
After Cégep, you went on to study osteopathy. Can you tell me if this knowledge of yours, this profession of yours, has helped you with cycling in any way?
Well, actually, I don't think that the profession as is helps me so much, but the fact that like I went to school a lot of hours, because this is at a private school. It's not like at university. So in terms of hours, we have much more hours of class to do. And I needed to be super rigorous in with my agenda, with where I put my time, how I plan all my days. So I think that has helped me in cycling, to be so rigid and strict and, okay, this is hard, but I need to give it a little go. This helps me as an athlete. And I think that being an osteopath helps more my teammates than myself, because if they have a problem or something, they'll always ask me for a treatment, which, I'll give even to some staff members. Sometimes they're like, hey, my neck is sore. Can you help me? And I'm like, yeah, okay, no problem. After training, I can help you with that. So it's a nice combination of the both. Yeah.
That's interesting. You almost have another part-time job on the team.
Yeah.
Currently, you live in San Sebastian, Spain. You moved there in September 2020. How did that move come about?
I was racing in Macogep, Girondin in Bordeaux, which, was the UCI team of Canada. And we had races near Bordeaux for a little bit. And my teammates and I, two other teammates, we asked hey, can our flight be a week later? We want to visit France and maybe Spain a little bit. We want to go on holiday after this block of racing. So we rented a motorhome and we drove down from Bordeaux to San Sebastian. And then we went up and we went to Lourdes and we did the Tourmalet. We trained a little bit. But when we came to San Sebastian for 2 days, I fell so in love with the town. I thought it was the best place ever. We trained here for only 2 days. And we were at the restaurant one night and I was just looking on my phone, for apartments here. And 1 year later, almost exactly 1 year later, I was moving there in September of 2020. I don't think that if I came on holiday here, I would have never came to visit San Sebastian. So that's really one of my teammates that said, hey, let's visit San Sebastian. I saw the race on TV and it looks really nice. Let's go there. And so, yeah, I came and I wouldn't go anywhere else. I wouldn't go to Girona. I wouldn't go anywhere in France. I wouldn't go anywhere else in Spain. San Sebastian is the place I love the most.
That's really interesting. And the reason I asked that, and you mentioned the city of Girona, that's where most cyclists seem to gravitate. It's either there or Andorra these days. So San Sebastian just seems a little bit to the side of these major cycling centers.
Yeah, well, I've been a few times to Girona, and I just feel there are too many cyclists. It's everything it revolves around cycling. And you need sometimes when you go back home to have a break from cycling, to not see your competitors at the grocery store and to not see everyone training on the same routes as you. For me, I really wouldn't like to stay in Girona. And also the riding in San Sebastian is just, I think it's much better. The weather, sometimes it rains a little bit more than Girona, but honestly, it's really, really not that bad.
What was it like racing? And believe you were working in Spain at first when you moved there in 2020.
When I came in 2020, I continued going to school. So I was taking classes to continue studying to be an osteopath, but I can't work here in Spain with the visa that I have.
I see. So you continued your study and you began doing some races. What was that like getting into the racing scene in Spain?
When I arrived in Spain, so my first season here was in 2021, and I was racing with Massy Tactic, the team that now Adel Normal races for. And I really, really, really disliked that team so much. It took a huge toll on like everything that I worked really, really hard for. It was not recognized by them at all, the sacrifices that I made, and it was just the typical bad team, like not reimbursing what they said they would reimburse, not getting a time trial bike that you were promised, not traveling by flight, taking going in the car for 10 hours the day before a race, not having food after the race, all of this typical Spanish small continental team stuff. And I think that's why actually that year I really didn't perform well. I really think that's because I was so stressed and in a bad environment that it was impossible to perform well in the races. It really was impossible because the way I described it a lot was I suffered so much off the bike with that team that when I was in the race, I didn't have any willpower to suffer anymore. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. It's not because I wasn't strong, because I was doing really good, strong trainings at home. Everything was going well with my health, everything. But then when I would arrive with the team, I would get a cold. I would not sleep well. I would just have anxiety, So that's why I performed so poorly, I find. And the one race that I did a good performance was at the Classic San Sebastian, where I was in the breakaway. Because, I just love this race so much. It's where I live and everything. And at that race, that's when Valcar sent me a message. Actually, during the race, when I was in the breakaway, they sent me a message. They said, hey, we really, really, really need you on our team next year. And they were the first team to contact me. And they just wanted me so much that I was really inspired by them. So for sure, I want to go on a team that tells me, we want you, instead of being in Massy Tactic that's oh, you're lucky to be here. We're giving you opportunity. You're racing for us. You're it was really a different atmosphere. And I'm just so lucky and grateful to have found Valcar when I did.
I love that detail that they're messaging you in the middle of a race. That's amazing. They really did want you. And that's also kind of troubling, but I've heard that message about other crummy teams where they say, oh, we're giving you opportunities. You should be thankful. And it seems rife in the women's peloton. This season, we've seen women leaving teams, moving to others because the teams they signed up for at the beginning of the season turned out to be pretty crummy.
Yeah, well, they say this a lot, we're giving you opportunity, but actually this is a professional job. That people are doing the same amount of work, the same effort, and the same sacrifices, but that are paid. So I'm basically doing this for free for you. And I'm a good rider, and I know that I'm worth something. And you're not even acknowledging this by just treating me with respect, not just because of the money, but just treating me as a human being. And, this is a problem because they can't be telling these girls, you're lucky to be here. No, they're lucky to have us. They are really lucky to have us because without the riders, they don't have a team. And that's simple. Without the riders, they don't have a team. And, it's important that we realize that this is a hard job. It's a job. And we can't just be doing this free labor all the time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I totally agree. So, your time on Valcar in 2022 was much better than the previous year. Tell me about the move from Valcar to your current team, UAE Team ADQ.
So now I'm on Team UAE. We are 5 riders that transferred from Valcar to UAE. as well as the sport director, Davide Arzeni. And it's very, very different from Valcar. It's very different. Like, for example, last year, Davide took all the decisions, all the important decisions, who was going to the race. He was the sport director at the race, and he was the one like deciding the calendar and the logistics, and he was running the team basically. It was one person running Valcar. And now in UAE, it's a little bit more difficult because, for example, we have 5 sport directors, and they always alternate who's the sport director. And often for the same race, we'll have 2 sport directors, you know, like one driving the car and one like making the decisions. But for me, that's hard because when I was in the Ardennes, we did 4 races in 2 weeks. And for all 4 races, it was a different sport director. You know, it's hard because you're just used to working with someone and everyone has a different vision of the race and everyone says different information on the radio and everyone's pre-race meetings are different. So it's just like always different visions and different goals. Like, for example, we have one sport director that wants all of us to be in the breakaway. Okay, we have one sport director that wants us to all finish in the group sprint all the time. Like, just like it was easier having only Davide as a sport director versus 5. You know, now we have like the performance manager that decides our calendars, and we don't really have a say. Actually, I don't like say, hey, these races I like more. The only thing that I said was I need to do Itzulia, and the rest you can decide. It's your job, but I need to do Itzulia. And I am going to nationals. I was firm on that because, or else they probably wouldn't want me to go because it's right before the Giro. So in UAE, it's like a lot of people are involved in every decision. So that is a little bit harder.
This speaks to the idea of like big company, small company. In a way, you used to work for a small company and now you work for a big company. And with the big company, there are, you know, bonuses or pluses with infrastructure. But yeah, there are more cooks in the kitchen, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In February, you posted the following on Instagram. You said, "It's the start of my 2nd year as a professional cyclist and my 3rd year racing in Europe." And then you went on to say, "I went from 7 minutes behind Annemiek in 2021 to 7 seconds in 2023. And this is at the race Setmana Ciclista Vuelta Comunitat Valenciana Femenina." It's a long name. And you then kind of joked, you had a smiley face or two, and you said, "Close to the top, but not close enough." It's natural to keep an eye on the top riders. Lately, you've been in the mix, as you mentioned earlier, with the likes of Annemiek van Vleuten, Demi Vollering, Niewiadoma. What have you learned by watching and racing against these riders?
I learned a lot when I wasn't like racing with them in the first group. So I watched a lot of races. So I've watched them a lot before these 3 years that I was racing in Europe. And now I watch them in the race and they're like the same. They're the same all the time. Like, for example, Kasia. It's so predictable when she's going to attack. It's the most predictable thing ever. And she also knows, I'm sure, oh, if it's steep, yeah, I'm going to attack. Like, okay. And that's what she did on the 2nd stage. But like also in Vuelta, sometimes it's just strange how she rides. She just goes in front and pulls, but like for who, for what, I don't know. But yeah, or like Annemiek, because, you know, Annemiek, it shows on TV that she is suffering so much, but she keeps going. And when she attacked on the final stage in Itzulia, in the steep part, I was on the first row and I was thinking to myself, like, oh my God, this is my 100%. This is my 100%. I'm going to vomit. I hope nobody attacks. That's what I was thinking. And then Annemiek did attack, and she was, you know, the same style all over on the bike, everywhere, just like trying to push with like even her fingers, you know, just like trying so hard. And that is really, really impressive when you see it like in person. And yeah, but it's, you know, it's impressive on the TV. We see the same thing. But she's also funny in the bunch because she was like a little bit boxed in before this attack. And she told like me and one FDG girl, hey, like move to the left, like I want to pass. And we were like, no, because you're going to attack. So we were like trying to box her in. So this is like nice to see like what happens in the bunch.
That is some great inside the bunch insight. And then afterwards, I don't know, what's your relationship with Annemiek van Vleuten? Does she hold a grudge later when you don't move over during the race?
Well, like, I'm not sure. I was thinking about this earlier today, actually, when I was training, because on the first stage at Itzulia, we like got gapped on the descent. This is the mistake that I was telling you about before. I was behind Annemiek on the descent, and you shouldn't ever be behind Annemiek on the descent because she's not a great descender. And I couldn't pass her because she didn't want me to pass. Every time I would go on either the right or the left, she would box me on that side. So we ended up chasing for like 3 kilometers the flat part at the first stage. We were chasing together. And so on the second day, she came up to me and she said like, haha, I wasn't so good on the downhill. I didn't want to take too many risks. And then I said, yeah, like I saw that, like we got dropped. And then she said, we were pulling together, like it was fun chasing with you. And I was like, okay, like it wasn't fun for me, but like, okay. And she was like, oh, you really had a big step up this year, like good for you, like stuff like this. And I was like, yeah, thank you. This was in the neutral. And then when the race starts, we're not friends anymore. She always wants to be where I am. She always wants to be there. And I'm not letting her, but like I kind of feel bad because like it's Annemiek. Should I be letting her take my spot? But like no, because I'm also here. And so it's like no, it's funny. Sometimes or she comes and yells at me and tells me that I need to pull, and I'm like, you're a world champion. Like, why do I need to pull? Like I don't know. So yeah, it's a little bit funny.
That's great. That's like the mind games, the psychology, and maybe a little bit the politics of racing. I find that so fascinating.
Yeah. No, it is fascinating. It is because sometimes the way that they race, they seem like they hate each other. They're yelling at each other. Cassia yelling at Annemiek, everything. And then, oh, they're hugging at the podium. Oh, good job after the race. And I'm just like, oh, okay.
What's been one of the most challenging things for you this season?
I think it was challenging for me when I was in the Ardennes, and my team had 3 leaders per race, and I was not in those 3 leaders. My job was to be like in the early breakaway, and like positioning the team, taking the wind, following the attacks on the first part of the race, and then like basically dropping. And I had just came back from altitude and I was confident in my form. And the day before Flèche, when my sport director told me, hey, like you need to go in the early breakaway, I said like, why? The early breakaway isn't going to win. And then she was like, yeah, I know, but like, we're doing the race for Sylvia and everything. And I said like, okay, I'm just going to tell you this one time that I am confident for Flèche. I feel good. I felt super strong today on the training ride. I love this race. I did well last year. I want my opportunity in this race, in Flèche. I want my opportunity. And she said, no, you don't get your opportunity. We're doing the race for Sylvia, Erica, and Michaela Harvey. And I was like, okay. I said to you what I needed to say, but I understand that I have a job. This is a job. It's my role, and I need to respect the job that was given to me. So I'm going to do what you're telling me to do, and I'm going to do it perfectly, but I disagree. And I said I disagree. And then they're like, okay, fine, you disagree, whatever. And then when I arrive in Vuelta, and then they see that, oh, like I am beating the girls that were in the top 10 at Flèche in the uphill finish that we had of 3 kilometers on stage 5. And I didn't say anything, but I'm like, I hope that maybe they realize that they could have given me my chance and that maybe they should have. And that I wasn't joking when I say, hey, listen, like I'm on form. I think that for the team and for myself, it would be good if you given me a chance. And so for these Ardennes, they did not ever give me a chance. So that was hard. And I think that that was the biggest challenge because it was 2 weeks in Belgium and, that's always difficult. And I was just really, really drained from that. And then I only had 2 days at home before going to the Vuelta because we were there in advance to practice the team time trial. So I was like, that was hard. That was the hardest moment this season. Yeah.
Yeah, that goes back to the working for a big company kind of idea. You don't always have the maybe the same influence you might in a smaller organization, but you did your job. And like you said, this is the job you do, and then maybe the opportunities come later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who has had the biggest influence on your cycling career?
I think that would be like my boyfriend and my current coach, Charles-Etienne. I think that he was the biggest influence for me in cycling because even if he's also very young, he's really, really a great cyclist all around. And he has been since he started. Like, he really has a natural talent that I feel like I needed to work really hard for. Like, for example, descending, he just descends really, really well. And me, I need to concentrate and focus on every movement, every descent. I need to be very mindful. I need to work to become better at this, but he just has it like naturally. And he's very, very good in race tactics. Like every race that I do, I always call him beforehand, ask him, hey, like, what do you think about the race scenarios that can happen? He always helps me with that. And he always like highlights stuff that my sport directors won't highlight. And like obvious things. And I tell him, you'd be like a great sport director. And he says that it's not something that he would want to do. But I'm really lucky because he coaches me. And, he's 23. So he's super young. And but I trust him a lot. And so he is my coach. And I think that he likes coaching me. But I needed to ask him a lot because maybe he wasn't sure. Maybe he doesn't want to make a mistake. Now I am a World Tour rider, so more people are looking at what he's giving me as trainings and stuff. So no, I think that he was the biggest influence for me. He was always there when, times were hard and I was questioning whether or not this was the sport for me. Like he also struggled to become a professional just like myself. So yeah, he was the best one to support me.
Amazing. He's having a pretty good season. He did really well at the Pan Am Championships. He was third, I believe, in the road race.
Yeah.
There must be a lot of cycling talk in your household there.
Yeah, sometimes, and then sometimes it's more like my fault.
Oh, really?
It's more me who will bring up I'm going to bring up cycling a little bit more. And sometimes he tells me, okay, like stop talking about cycling for like the rest of the day. And I'm like, okay, it's okay. He's not going to talk about it so much, actually. If I don't talk about it, he's not going to talk about it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think you can win a Grand Tour?
Yes, I do think. Yeah, I do think I can win a Grand Tour. Yeah, and actually it was funny because in December, we had like a pre-training camp, and we did like a VO2 max test at this pre-training camp. It wasn't only a VO2 max test, but it was also like metabolic. So like he was looking at like, the watts that you still burn fat versus when you start to go in your glycose stores and stuff. And we were doing this test, and the guy was telling me like, oh my God, how many Grand Tours do you want to win? How many Grand Tours do you want to win? So I was like, oh, that's nice. But like, I was just like, okay, that's nice to know that. I guess that I just burn fat for a really long time before I go and to get my glucose store. So I don't know, I guess that was good. Yeah. So I do think I can win a Grand Tour.
That is encouraging. That's good to hear. What do you do when you're not riding the bike? Or maybe when Charles Etienne says we're not talking about cycling today?
I love San Sebastian, so I just go into town, I go to the beach, maybe I grab a coffee, I hang out with him, or I cook a lot. I spend a lot of time cooking. So yeah, that takes up a big part of my day because, I want to eat well. And so I take my time a lot.
So what's ahead for you this season for the rest of 2023?
Well, now tomorrow I'll know if I'm doing the Giro or the Tour or both. So I'm hoping both, but I don't know, maybe changes. I don't know. And so maybe if I'm doing the Giro, I need to go in altitude after the race in A-Ball. And I'll go down from altitude for Tour of Pyrenees. That's mid-June. And then I'll do nationals at the end of the month of June before going to the Giro, if I do the Giro.
Well, Olivia Baril, it's been great talking with you. It's been great watching you race at these big events. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what happens for the rest of this season and beyond.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And that's the episode. It is edited.
And what an episode it was. Oh, I got too excited there.
Your timing is impeccable.
My timing is everything.
That was the episode?
I mean, technically, it still is the episode. We're still talking. I can do this all day.
It's edited. It's edited by me, Matthew Piaro, and Matt Hansen gives me a lot of stuff to edit. Thank you, Matt.
Mm-hmm. No problem. Trying to help.
Yeah, trying to help. I also got help from mountain bike editor Terry McCall. He's always got insights, whether it's mountain bikes or other kind of bikes. He seems to know it all. The episode is produced by Adam Killick. What else did he also do, Matt?
The music. He also did the music.
Yes, thank you for the tunes, Adam. Thanks to Ontario Creates for its support. So I gotta go catch the end of the Giro stage, watch G in the break.
Are we going to make G Whiz jokes more, or is that kind of done? Because I noticed everyone else is starting to use those. We were doing them way before it was cool.
Well, his team seems to really lean into G-Force.
Oh, I like that.
But I don't think it has anything to do with Battle of the Planets. I don't think anyone is old enough to remember that show.
Oh, great show.
Yes, you have to be of a certain vintage to remember that cartoon that Japan may import. So there's G-Force, there's G-Whiz. There is another podcast that's put his name to the tune of a Beatles song.
Love Me G? No.
No. Oh, and then there's the confusion of Geraint Thomas. His nickname is G.
Well, that's going to have to change. The G d'Italia.
Oh, boy.
No, that's not good. We're going to workshop this later. I'm going to take the day off and work on this, just like you just told me.
No, I need you to get back to typing.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Ride safe, and I'll talk to you later.